Slug, this is Old Gold Retold for Friday, 28 December 1973. Program starts 5 seconds after 1,000 cycle tone at 0 VU.
AFN Frankfurt presents Old Gold Retold.
Hi, Specialist Park Seward in Frankfurt. Tonight on Old Gold, this program is simply entitled The Sounds of Soul. Rescue Me, Fontella Bass from 1965. That's a good example of the Detroit soul sound. Now you say, well, there are different soul sounds. Yeah, there's Detroit and there's also Memphis, as long as we're talking about the beginnings of soul. Back in the early 60s, 64, 65, there was quite a difference. The Detroit soul sound was very structured, well-planned, very safe. Now, the Memphis sound was nitty-gritty and raunchy, and it wasn't planned out. Things were ad-libbed in the studio, and because that happened, the songs were more exciting. They were lively. Well, to talk about the difference between the Memphis sound and the Detroit sound, and to give us some examples of the nitty-gritty Memphis sound, here's Jim Nettleton.
The Memphis soul sound was a culmination of the great rhythmic styles of the black artists whose musical heritage gave birth to rock and helped guide its subsequent development. The music of black Americans had gone through its ups and downs since people first became aware of what students of the music had known all along, that here was a vital music form and one that had universal appeal and identification. That was in the early 50s when some black artists started to make it. But rhythm and blues suffered setbacks in the later 50s and didn't reemerge until around 1961 with the beginnings of the Motown sound. And with the exceptions of several Motown hits, R&B remained definitely in the background through the Beatle craze and the English invasion. So it wasn't until the mid-60s that rhythm and blues once again began to come into its own. And Memphis was one of the biggest reasons. Listen, for instance, to the freewheeling blues, gospel, and R&B sounds on a Sam and Dave classic called Hold On, I'm Coming. Sam and Dave and a great Memphis sound. Hold on, I'm coming. The Memphis sound was unique. It was quite different from the more polished commercial soul sounds being produced in Detroit because the musicians in Memphis played freely and ad-libbed at will. The Detroit sound was a carefully pre-planned approach that boxed in creativeness to a degree. The off-the-top approach of the Memphis sound blended perfectly with the entire attitude of the music style itself, which was one dealing in human emotion and experience closely and basically. Duplicating the Memphis sound was extremely difficult, since little of it was thoroughly planned. Here's an example of the sound in Sam and Dave's 1967 classic, Soul Man. Soul Man from Sam and Dave. Of course, the biggest reason for the consistent success of the Memphis style was the musicians behind it. And here again, the uniqueness of the sound produced from that city is seen. Stax Records, the company that got things going again in Memphis, hired a group of musicians to record all their product for them and for nobody else. That group was 7 guys known as Booker T and the MGs. 7 picked carefully and obviously very well. Not only have they backed the successful Stax products and been prime movers in many classic recordings coming from that label in Memphis during the mid and late 60s generally, but they also have had several hits of their own. They continue today to produce very marketable sounds. Booker T and the MG's influence extended to virtually every phase of the new developing soul scene of the 60s. They backed the top Memphis stars. They recorded on their own and produced hits. They also wrote many of the songs that are now considered standards of the American music picture. They had traveled with the late Otis Redding. Now they travel on their own as missionaries of Memphis soul to the world. And when they're not traveling, they lend their talents to session after session in Memphis. One of the songs they wrote was done by Wilson Pickett, one of the greats of soul. Pickett had started his career as a gospel singer, then a member of the Falcons, one of the best groups to come out of Chicago in the earlier R&B days. By the time 1965 had rolled around, everybody had heard of the man they were then referring to as the Wicked Pickett. And one of the reasons was this million seller, Midnight Hour.
I'm gonna
1965 soul standard from Wilson Pickett, Midnight Hour. A circle of people that are guiding lights in the Memphis sound seem to keep helping each other produce great things. As we said before, Booker T and the MGs have written many great songs, including Midnight Hour for Wilson Pickett and a thing called Knock on Wood for Eddie Floyd. Eddie Floyd, like Wilson Pickett, was originally a member of Chicago's Falcons. He, in turn, has written many successful songs for other artists, including 634-5789 for Pickett. He has also had success on his own, the biggest being that hugely popular Knock on Wood. Here's the original, in which the funky Memphis style has never been better. Eddie Floyd, with another of the contributions of Memphis to the world of soul. The great freewheeling Memphis soul style, which had its start in the middle 60s, had a huge amount of influence on the structure of R&B music of the modern era. It was a much sought-after sound, and one that was exceedingly difficult to duplicate anywhere but in Memphis, with musicians accustomed to performing in the unique way that gave the Memphis sound its individuality. The unrehearsed approach worked to perfection with many great artists, like the late Otis Redding, considered by many to be the premier exponent of modern soul. Redding had his beginnings in a little town called Macon, Georgia, the same town that Little Richard came from. Although his artistry was superb, it wasn't until the mid-60s that he became generally known. And one of the tremendous driving sounds that helped him on his way was I Can't Turn You Loose.
I'm gonna
prime example of the hard-driving Memphis sound from Otis Redding. Otis Redding's career reflects the problems many black artists had in becoming known in the mid-'60s. The sound of soul was taking a back seat to the sounds of the English craze, and although some fantastic product was coming from the soul centers of this country, they had a difficult time cracking the British barricade. Oddly enough, it was the English artists themselves who introduced a large part of the American audience to rhythm and blues in both its early and modern form. Groups like the Stones, particularly, fashioned most of their repertoire from blues-oriented songs and repeatedly professed their admiration of a wide range of American blues and soul artists. Otis Redding was one of these. The Stones loved him. He loved them. And their constant mentions helped Redding gain more notoriety than ever before. American audiences started taking serious looks at Redding and those other groups and artists that the English were patterning themselves after, and they discovered that the English style owed its form to American precedents. Otis Redding's biggest hit was this, from 1968.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Listen, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Listen, 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of a bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of a bay, wasting time.
Dock of the Bay, and the immortal Otis Redding from 1968. Earlier in this series, we examined the phenomenon of what is termed blue-eyed soul. In the way of review, essentially this is a white artist or group imitating the style of the black artist. Before the Memphis sound came into prominence, leading exponents of blue-eyed soul had been the Righteous Brothers, starting about 1964, and in the later 60s, the Rascals, and English groups like the Stones and the Animals. It can be argued that the difference between the Righteous Brothers and Rascals type of sound and that of the Stones and Animals is that the English groups sounded that way because of their great admiration of rhythm and blues music, whereas others were simply trying to imitate the sound superficially. The Memphis era had its blue-eyed soul side too, more in this case because the white artists who sounded black were natives of the region and had always been close to the traditions of rhythm and blues music. An example is the Box Tops. Listen to the great bluesy quality of Alex Chilton in the lead on one of their biggest hits, The Letter.
Give me a ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby just wrote me a letter. I don't care how much money I gotta spend. Got to get back to my baby. Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby just wrote me a letter. When she wrote me a letter, said she couldn't live without me no more. Listen, mister, can't you see I got to get back to my baby? ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby started with me a letter. When she wrote me a letter, said she couldn't live without me no more. Listen, mister, can't you see I got to get back to my baby once more. Anyway, yeah, get a ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby sister wrote me a letter. My baby sister wrote me a letter.
Alex Chilton in the lead with the Box Tops in 1967 with The Letter, Blue-Eyed Memphis Soul. In recent years, the tendency for white artists to sound black has become more and more common, until at the present, there are so many who practice this style, both American and English, that the category for all practical purposes is passed out of existence. The style is no longer referred to as a specific category. But in the middle and later 60s, it was still relatively uncommon. There have been individual examples in rock music as far back as the Diamonds with Little Darlin' and some others. In those days, these examples made inroads in the rhythm and blues music charts, primarily because they fooled black audiences as well as white for a while. This is not the case with any degree of similar frequency today. The Box Tops, with their Memphis origins in music, had a decidedly black sound and a musical backing that was more commercial than that of an Otis Redding, but still unmistakably Memphis in character. We can hear this perfectly in their 1968 hit, Cry Like a Baby.
As I look back on a love so sweet now, I cry like a baby. Every road is a lonely street, I cry like a baby. I know now that you're not a plaything, not a toy or a puppet on a string. Today we passed on the street, and you just walked on by. My heart just fell to my feet, and once again I began to cry.
Old Gold Retold is produced in the Frankfurt studios of the American Forces Network Europe by Specialist Park Seward.